The movie begins at a 5-year-old's birthday party in a dream. Bryan Mills, an ex-CIA agent, wakes up from this dream in his living room, having fallen asleep holding a picture of his daughter, Kim. The following morning, Bryan drives to an electronics shop to purchase a karaoke machine. He wraps the machine as a gift and goes with it to his daughter's birthday party. At the party, he is stopped from entering by a security man until his ex-wife Lenore intervenes. She shows Bryan where he can leave his gift, but he insists on handing it over to Kim directly. Kim runs over to Bryan and he gives her the present. Kim's stepfather, Stuart, walks into the party with a horse as Kim's present, and the crowd cheers and starts singing happy birthday to her. Later that night, Bryan's friends Sam, Mark, and Bernie arrive to visit him. They barbecue, and Sam offers Bryan a job supervising security at a concert for a pop star named Shira, which Bryan accepts. The next day, they arrive at the concert and secure Shira's admittance. While Shira gets ready, Bryan compliments her on her singing, and the two become acquainted. Bryan requests Shira for advice he may give his daughter, who also aspires to be a singer, and Shira suggests that she choose another career. Bryan plays cards with Sam, Mark, and Bernie at the concert and gets a phone call from Kim inviting him to lunch. After Shira's performance, a crowd rushes beyond a gate to charge towards her, but the security team stops them. During their escape, Bryan protects Shira from a knife assailant, ensuring her safe exit from the performance. After the show, Sam pays Bryan, Mark, and Bernie, while Shira seeks a meeting with Bryan. In gratitude, Shira gives Bryan a business card to her vocalist and manager, who can train Kim. The next day, Bryan had lunch with Kim and Lenore. Kim asked that he let her leave the country with her best friend Amanda to visit Amanda's cousins in Paris. Bryan later brings Kim the signed forms and permits her to travel under 3 conditions. He also provides Kim with a phone, and she agrees to his terms. Bryan drives Kim to the airport and gives her advice on how to survive in Paris. At the airport, Kim meets Amanda, and Bryan discovers that Kim lied to her about their plans to follow U2 on their European tour. Lenore comes to the airport, confirms that she is aware of Kim's deception, and insists that Kim takes the trip nevertheless. Bryan approves the vacation and takes a picture of Kim and Amanda before they leave. Bryan requests Kim to call him, and he and Lenora bid the girls farewell. Kim and Amanda arrive at Charles de Gaulle Airport and meet Peter, who takes their photo and offers to share a taxi with them. They accept, and he accompanies them to their location, Amanda's cousin's flat. After they say their goodbyes, Peter calls someone and tells them where the girls reside. When Kim enters the apartment, Amanda informs her that her cousins are not present, but are in Spain. Amanda starts blasting music, and Bryan calls Kim, but she doesn't hear her phone ring due to the volume. Kim eventually discovers her phone ringing, and while talking to Bryan, she witnesses guys breaking into the flat and kidnapping Amanda. Bryan sets up his recording equipment to document the events and tells Kim to hide beneath the bed and pay close attention to the kidnappers. The kidnappers enter the bedroom Kim is hiding in and begin speaking Albanian to one another, while Kim attempts to record what they are saying on her mobile device. Just as the kidnappers leave, one of them grabs and kidnaps Kim. Over the phone, Bryan vows to find and murder the kidnappers, and they wish him luck. Bryan departs on his mission and calls Sam while driving, sharing the recording of the kidnapping with him for analysis. Bryan arrives at Lenore and Stuart's house, notifies them of Kim's abduction, and asks Stuart to book him a flight to Paris. Sam phones Bryan to inform him that the kidnappers are part of an Albanian sex trafficking ring, and Marco Hoxha is the mob boss. Sam reminds Bryan that based on prior abductions, Kim must be located within 96 hours or she will be lost forever. Bryan quickly departs for Paris and listens to the recording of the kidnapping on his flight. Bryan arrives at Amanda's cousin's place in Paris and sneaks inside rather than using the front entrance. Bryan investigates the crime scene and locates the SD card from the phone he gave Kim. He examines the contents of the SD card and notices Peter's reflection in a shot he snapped of Amanda and Kim at the airport. Bryan discovers Peter at the airport and confronts him before he abducts another lady. Bryan pursues Peter, and in his attempt to flee, he gets hit by a trailer and killed. Bryan meets with Jean-Claude Petrel, an old acquaintance who is now the Deputy Director of Internal Security. Jean-Claude guides him to Port de Clichy, where he will begin his quest for his daughter and Albanians. Bryan arrives at the streets of Port de Clichy, where he confronts Anton, an Albanian pimp, and places a listening device on his jacket. He also hires an Albanian translator named Gregor Milosevic. Gregor understands the Albanian Anton is speaking on the phone using Bryan's listening device. He informs him that Anton intends to visit a construction site to solve difficulties with fresh merchandise. Bryan thanks him for his service and requests an Albanian English dictionary. Bryan arrives at the construction site and discovers a makeshift brothel full of intoxicated, malnourished women who are being exploited. He meets a drugged lady with Kim's jacket and saves her from the site. Bryan engages in a gunfight with the brothel operators during his rescue attempt, but he successfully transports the woman to a hotel and devises a method to detoxify her system. The next morning, Jean-Claude phones Bryan in an attempt to lure him into captivity by promising him a ticket out of France, but Bryan deftly avoids him and his agents. The lady wearing Kim's jacket awakens and directs Bryan to Rue de Paradis, a house with a red door, where she and Kim were imprisoned by the Albanians. Bryan goes to the residence acting as Jean-Claude to negotiate the police protection rate. Bryan identifies Marco by tricking him into saying, "Good luck," and the meeting devolved into a fight that claimed the lives of several terrorists. Bryan searches the residence and discovers several drugged girls, including Amanda, who died from an overdose. Bryan catches Marco and uses electrocution to torture him. Marco confesses to Bryan that he sold Kim on the black market to a crime syndicate buyer named Patrice St. Clair. Bryan goes to Jean-Claude's residence and confronts him about his unethical operations. Bryan shoots Jean-Claude's wife to force him to give Patrice St. Clair's location and knocks him out. At the St. Clair mansion, Bryan infiltrates a subterranean sex slave auction. He poses as a server for one of the bidders, Ali. Kim is the subject of the last sale, and Bryan compels Ali to purchase her. Bryan gets apprehended by St. Clair's henchmen just before abducting Ali to go collect Kim. After learning of Bryan's objective and identity, St. Clair orders his team to assassinate him, but he kills them all and escapes. Bryan captures St. Clair in an elevator, and St. Clair reveals Kim's whereabouts on a yacht owned by a sheikh named Rahman. Bryan shoots St. Clair multiple times before heading for the yacht. Bryan misses the yacht's onboarding and pursues it until he catches up. He eliminates all of the henchmen on board, including Ali, and finds Rahman holding Kim captive at knife point. Rahman attempts to negotiate, but Bryan kills him and saves Kim. Bryan and Kim meet Lenore and Stewart at the Los Angeles airport to welcome them home. The film concludes with Bryan taking Kim to see Shira to train her in singing.